So as you can tell, Halcyon has always been a really busy place, but running programs online and making this network of artists and entrepreneurs feel super connected during times of isolation has been keeping everyone really engaged. And so I am so grateful to be connected to such amazing and dedicated colleagues. For everyone who's just joining, hello and welcome to Arts Community Day, virtually, online, from DC, from everywhere that you are. So we are going to keep things moving right along with our next presenter. And I just want to say that Hamiltonian Artists holds a really special place in my heart. It was the first arts organization that I worked for here in DC. And the Hamiltonian Fellowship is really something very unique and special in the city, and has impacted the careers of dozens of emerging artists. And in fact, their application is open now. So all sentiment aside, the powerhouse team at Hamiltonian has been rethinking the physical nature of the exhibition. And I am super, super excited to hear more about their ongoing virtual exhibition series now. So if you guys are ready, I'm going to turn it over to Lily, Nancy, and Rex. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks.
Hi.
Thanks for that introduction.
Let's see. Yeah, thank you, Nicole. I don't have much more to add. I guess I'll introduce myself. I'm Lily Siegel. I am Hamiltonian's new and first executive director. For those of you out there who are already familiar with Hamiltonian, which I know many are, I was a big fan and supporter before taking this position. There have been some changes recently. Previously, Hamiltonian functioned as a commercial gallery and a fellowship program under a 501c3. We are now just a nonprofit, still running our gallery space in service of our fellows. And we were just getting started as a team, Nancy, Rex, and I, to rethink what the fellowship was going to look like and how we were going to use our gallery space as I got started in mid-February. And then we all had to shift our perspective again and think about how to move everything online. And I think especially Rex and Nancy have really taken the lead and come up with some really creative ideas that they are going to share with you today. So thank you, Halcyon team, for putting this together and inviting us. Thank you to all of the other presenters. It's great company. And thank you to all of you who are here watching. I'm going to turn it over.
Nancy, do you want to introduce yourself next?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So I'm Nancy Daly. I'm the program director at Hamiltonian. I have the role that Nicole had when I was a fellow a few years ago. Yeah, so I'm in charge of programs, and right now at the front of my mind is the application that's out. So follow our social media, see all the exciting changes that we have coming with that, and applications are due May 15th. Take it away, Rex.
Hi, I'm Rex DeLafcaron. I've been at Hamiltonian for going on 3 years. I'm the exhibitions director, and I am going to get into our hypothetical show series. The hypothetical shows are a response that all three of us had to this obviously really weird and alarming time that's really shifting our whole perspective on how we serve our fellows in our program and how we engage in a larger art community in DC and outside DC. The internet is a funny tool, and the hypothetical show series while it takes many forms, engages the platform that it's on as part of the content in a way that we find to be really experimental and really curating in a creative way, like creativity forward, I would say. The essence, like I said, the essence of experiment has really been the forefront of this first HS1 show. The title of the show is Public, Private, Urgent, Intimate, Sparse. And it's a showcase, a group show of our current Hamiltonian fellows, a selection of them. And in this show, I decided to land on a particular theme to start us off, that felt like it would give enough space for clarity around all the work being displayed, and also a really like sincere and humorous look at this predicament that all arts organizations are in. The show is placed in a miscellaneous white cube space found on the internet, and the sparseness of the show really engages with this idea of being very isolated and sharing intimate experiences publicly, and having public experiences more private. I chose all the work very specifically. It's all older work from the fellows, work that has not been shown at Hamiltonian before, that is now being shown at this kind of off-site space. And I wanted to learn more about the work. I wanted to create an excuse for all of us to engage in pieces that we hadn't really had a chance to engage with prior, and also really be sensitive to our fellows right now. It's a really intense time for most of our artists, and we wanted to start out this program, this like hypothetical show program, gently, and kind of put the artists forward without putting more work and more pressure on the fellows individually. I will say that curating the show was really fun. It really expanded the idea of like having the limitation of space. And it was really fun to talk to Nancy and Lily about what we're seeing in the world, how other galleries, museums, arts organizations, and nonprofits are trying to figure out how to create online shows. I'm going to share my screen and do a little walkthrough of the show on our website, which you can visit for more information at any time for the run of the show. All right, so this is our website. And this first image that you're seeing is our beautiful white cube space offsite. I like the idea of the white cube space because I think it's this totally kind of fetishized art world idea that, you know, we all wish we had a little bit of a nicer space. We all wish we had access to these like kind of pristine, glowing spaces that are like so institutional. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of explore what it'd be like to have this like limitless option of the white cube space. It's very different than our brick and mortar on 14th and U. In this first room, you'll see 2 photographs of Caitlin Gensho. She's a second-year fellow. On the pillar, you'll see a sculpture of Luke Eichertz. In this, there'll be a detail shot forthcoming, but it's a megaphone piece that is interactive. And then on the far wall, you'll see a large painting by Madeline Stratton, and she's a first-year fellow. So in our beautiful white cube space, we enter the second room, and this image definitely explores more of the sense of humor that I entered the show with. We have a black box in the corner with Tommy Bobo's work. It's a pile of this confetti with moving lights that was actually installed at Hamiltonian at the end of last year. You'll see 4 iPhone screenshot pieces by Amber Eve Anderson, who's a first-year fellow as well, along with Tommy. Another image of Caitlin Gensho's on the right wall from her most recent solo exhibition, and a freestanding concrete sculpture by Sarah Bueno, who's a second-year fellow. Detail shots of our black box nook, and of the cell phone pieces interacting with the freestanding sculpture and the photographs. I will say you'll notice that the perspective and the scale of all the work in this show are very specific and they're not trying to convince you of anything. This was a very intentional choice on our part. As it is a series of ongoing shows, every show will look very different. Some will be in the future more realistic, but this is definitely engaging, like I said, with this kind of cut and paste quality of the internet, and how little can we do to give you the impression that this is a full, literal, yet hypothetical online show. I'll show you briefly some images of the work up close. This is the Caitlin Gensho photograph. 2 of the images I chose of hers were much older work from 2012. They're film photographs, and her work really explores the intimacy of her family, and showing these photos at a large scale, I thought would really engage with the other work in an interesting way, as far as like a very tangible, tactile experience that we don't get to have right now, that we share with those close to us and in public spaces in daily life on the regular. This was the megaphone piece that I was describing of Luke Eichard's. I thought in combination with these really intimate photo moments, the urgency of this like red and white megaphone really called attention to the urgent set part of this exhibition and this need to keep moving forward, but also has the sense of humor attached to it that I really love in his work. This is the painting of Madeline A. Stratton. This work I also find really sinister and humorous at the same time, a really nice balance that I think all the work in this show has. All these the works in this series are, she's painting layouts of homes she's had over time from memory. So it's all about internal private spaces, but kind of engages with this murkiness that I think all of us are experiencing in this time. Here's the detail of Tommy Bobo's work. It gives you a better impression of what the work looked like in Hamiltonian, and the kind of aurora borealis effect that his work has in this particular show. His work is also really wonderful because it has this kind of beautiful, playful quality, a sense of humor to it, really like I said, a playful quality to it. But if you really think about these like animatronic lights that are moving and grazing the surface of this confetti pile, there is this sense of the party's over, you know, like this is the end of the day, the end of the party. And I just did an artist talk with him yesterday, and we really both enjoyed this party's over mentality as far as the COVID experience. We have to create our own parties. And then this is the Sarah Bueno piece, concrete, cinder blocks creating a kind of Jenga interactive game, has a very sinister, timely quality that I will be sharing a short interview with her that you'll get more into. And these are the cell phone pieces from Amber Eve Anderson. And my favorite part about including these works is that these works debuted in an online exhibition. These works are all, the mediums are 4 rose gold iPhones with screenshots from a family group chat where they talk through their experiences of nature. And I thought it was a really fabulous connection to the content of the show, considering this is so timely now that the only way we have to connect with our outside experience and with our families in some cases is through technology. All right. So that is our brief little tour. Please feel free to visit our website. It has our press release on it. It has our checklist, and it has links to all the artists' information and bios. I'm powering right on through so we can get to some questions as well and hear more about Hamiltonian. So I'm going to share, I'm going to share this video with Sarah Bueno. It's just a clip of an artist talk that we did last week. And I'm really excited to launch a longer series of artist talks attached to this show where all the artists will talk specifically about the work and their experience during this unfamiliar time.
Mother myths, and it's basically the specific words. It's a transformation of like a children's very simple like block game into industrial concrete. I mean, the pieces are sort of heavy. They don't look very kid friendly. My mother's family lived in Gölcük, which is it's a small town in northwest Turkey. It's definitely not a cosmopolitan city. So I was thinking about the simplicity of life there, and also like the simplicity of building a life there, of like making do with simple things. Often my mother tells me sort of stories about, her and her sisters like growing up in this military base and like their creativity as children, like making games and like, like making up these like I don't know, toys from things that are lying around. And as I said, they grew up in a military base at a time when Turkey was going through like wars and political instability. So there's a heaviness within that sort of naivete of, you know, like making toys out of, you know, whatever you find. So I think the piece kind of relates to that as well. And they're in the form of, you know, like Jenga, which is like in my case, a foreign like patented game. And that's the version that I grew up with the game, because I grew up in Istanbul. I was born in Istanbul, and Istanbul is this like huge international like Westphaliac metropolis. And it's also the city my mother escaped to when she was 7. So the piece for me simultaneously packs that like her childhood experience of like making do with these objects, and also simultaneously talks about this switch in socioeconomic class and also globalization, right? And in the time frame from my grandmother's youth to now, Turkey also went through like a lot of really fast development. And when I say fast, I don't mean like temporal fast. I mean like sort of fast in mindset, unconsidered, like a series of surface level development plans and ever-changing governments. And this in combination with sort of Western pressure to globalize gave way to a lot of like blocky concrete apartment style buildings in, you know, like very opposite to old Turkish architecture. So at the same time, I'm sort of thinking about that aesthetic and this sort of like development as child's play, or sort of not as considered in terms of governing. And then of course, like any structure you make with this specific block, you can very easily destroy, right? Like you can just like slap it and it just goes everywhere. And I think I was also attracted to this form for that reason as well.
All right, I'm going to go back to you all. All right, so that was a little snippet of that talk. I see that there are some questions in the chat. Let me see if I can get. All right. Okay, so I guess I should read these out loud. Okay, from Erin. Let's see. In your switch to a beautiful virtual platform with hypothetical, what has been your biggest success thus far? When returning to the physical world, how do you project your current experiences and innovative tech decisions might change your future practices? That's a great question. I guess I'll start with answering, and then Lily, Nancy, if you want to answer as well, absolutely. For me, this show is so much fun to do, and like I really got to as a personal curatorial project, it felt really exciting to engage with the fellows in a way that there isn't really space for in our physical calendar. You know, we're a very small staff and very ambitious, and so to be able to really talk through with the fellows and show and be able to just throw together ideas so easily, I think that it'll change. It's already, I think, changing a curatorial perspective. And then for Hamiltonian re-entering the physical gallery, I think it really, it's a nice reminder, I think, of how much you can really get done, and how generative even the smallest conversations and ideas can be. And the tech decisions, I think, they're timely now in a way that they weren't before, but at the same time, I think online shows were happening. Like I was saying, Amber Anderson's work debuted in an online show last year. So I think online shows could potentially have a really cool future in programming, even after we can go outside again.
Yeah, and I think we've also, like, it's caused us all to think a lot about like what the purpose of the gallery space is and what the purpose of an exhibition is, and programming surrounding an exhibition. And so like as these hypothetical shows continue, you know, we'll try weirder stuff that continues to like experiment with what an exhibition is and can be, and that will affect how that works in a space as well.
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about, as everyone is questioning when we're going back into physical space, the ideas for these hypothetical shows just keep coming. So we're planning them out into the future, and who knows, if we have the capacity, they might become something that we do ongoing anyway, because they are bringing up such interesting points. And, we haven't talked about what it means going back to the physical space and bringing those shows online in a different way, but it could change that perspective as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
We're also so focused on like our primary concern, and the people that we show are our fellows. But like Rex was saying, like opening up into the digital space allows more time to open up, and that could help us show other artists as well, along with the fellows, because we'll have more time and space.
Yeah, engaging entirely other artists and audiences in like really real ways. I mean, I'm really excited about the future hypothetical shows that we're already planning. I mean, the space for performance and time-based media and collaboration amongst the fellows is, opportunities abounds. So we have another question. Are you thinking any differently about the artists you're considering for the fellowship? We, like Lily was saying, the program is changing and has changed. I think maybe Nancy, do you want to jump in on
Sure.
fellowship? Yeah.
I would say no, like this period of time has not necessarily caused us to rethink the criteria of like who's getting into the fellowship, but we just happen to be at a time when we are thinking about new criteria. We have a jury, as we always have, that we've announced, and they will judge based on the quality of the work. But we have like more like time requirements, more specific time requirements, and we want a big commitment to the community. So while you don't have to live in DC, you're going to have to be in the space when we can go back to the space more. Yeah.
There are other things that we're making more explicit, also in terms of community involvement, but we're not requiring that you have a degree. I think that we're not using the term emerging artist at all. We're saying practicing artists who are looking for professional development opportunities is really, so we're trying to open up the application process to as many interested artists and different types of artists, a diversity of artists as possible. And, it is an outside jury that makes the initial selection of the artists. So it's not the Hamiltonian staff, but at the end of the process, we do an interview, and that interview is about commitment and fit and how you see yourself contributing to your fellows. We have also made the application a little bit more guided in that direction. Instead of previously just submitting your CV and an artist statement and a letter of intent, we now ask very specific questions about your practice, your experiences, and why Hamiltonian.
Rex, one of the next questions that I see pop up are there certain types of criteria for art that shows well in a virtual exhibition?
That's a really good question. I think the cool part about an online or virtual exhibition is that if you encounter a problem, like if you see the documentation of a work not working well online, that there's a number of solutions to play with in order to make it function better. So I don't think that any work is off the table. I think that it was funny. I mean, for example, it was funny to be working with photography online. Photography is such a wild medium right now. And like the irony of displaying fine art photography in an online show that in and of itself is a JPEG at the end of the day is one that I love, and I think is there's humor there, but there's also like something to be investigated. And also there's a lot of freedom with those photographs. I mean, I was talking to Caitlin Genso, the artist, who took them, and, you know, there's freedom that I have now to print them huge, you know, print them at a scale that would be really incredible to see them at, that, you know, resources and time and all of those things kind of limit in the real world. Other than that, I mean, I think Tommy Bobo and I talked a lot about his work and how difficult it is to document. And he liked the solution that I came up with by creating this kind of like janky black box experience of his work. But, you know, in future hypothetical shows that we're working on, we're thinking of, you know, how do we incorporate video, kind of in the same general idea of a GIF, like how are we using the tools that the internet has for us to give you a better picture while embracing the fact that it's like we all are in the arts for a reason. And, you know, I think Lily, Nancy, and I have talked about this a lot, like we want to see work in person. So it'll never be quite the same, but it's fun to figure out new ways of seeing work of any kind.
One of the things that I thought was really funny about the way that you curated this was with Tommy's piece. Like if any of you saw Tommy's piece in the gallery for New Now, like it's completely impossible that it would look like that with an open door. Even if it's in the black box, it would be spilling out. And then like Amber's phones, like no one has the budget for that many iPhones. Like I liked all of these like impossible things that you were doing that like don't seem impossible at first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the impossibility is really generative right now when so much is impossible. Like going to see you two is like not a like super possible thing. So I think it translates into everything. We have another question. Post-pandemic, do you hope to have more virtual tours? What does that look like? And is that a focus? I hope to have more virtual experiences of shows and programming online. Absolutely. I don't know that it's a focus. I think the focus will always be on our fellows and delivering programs to that community and to the DC community. But I think it'll be a fun new component that we didn't have time to really play with before.
I've been trying for years to get Hamiltonian to get drone footage from inside the gallery.
I have not signed up for that yet.
Ongoing battle.
I think that this is, you know, in every conversation we have, we keep talking about how we want to take these lessons that we're learning and ideas that are being generated and figure out how to carry them into the future. That this has actually been a very productive, creative time, I think, for the team and our fellows as well. I think we're running out of time, but I wonder if Rex and Nancy, you want to talk a little bit about some of the ideas and conversations you've had with them about the next iterations of Hypothetical Show.
Yeah. So I think right now we're working on another group show in the pipeline that will take a whole new form and engaging with other digital tools. But the one that Nancy and I have been talking a ton about is maybe the third or fourth coming. And that is really creating it more of a collaborative project out of the show. We're toying with ideas of house shows. You know, we're all house bound. So how do we engage the fellows with each other and us with the fellows? And how do we, as a team, curate a show experience that kind of defies exhibition limitations and that can exist in a way that feels different. I mean, try and new, and like, again, engage with what resources all the fellows have before them, instead of ignoring what's happening, a bit, like really engaging directly.
And then programmatically, we were thinking of like internal programs for the fellows, like getting into Zoom meetings and talking about like best case scenarios for documenting their work in their homes to be part of the show. So like their ability to photograph their work in a space isn't a limit to making a show look good. Yeah, so weird things like that.
Yeah, it's gonna get really fun. Yeah, so I know we're out of time, but I just want to say, yes, Hamiltonian applications are live. So if you or anyone you know is looking for this opportunity, you can read more about it on our website. Stay tuned. Sarah Bueno, who we just showed a clip of the interview studio visit with, her entire virtual visit will be live later this afternoon. And then in the coming weeks, we'll have individual visits with all the artists in the show.
Where will it be live, Rex?
Good question, Nancy. It's going to be live on our Instagram, and it will also live as an archive on the Hamiltonian website under exhibitions, Hypothetical Show #1.